I'd like to welcome you all to the Maple Ridge Senior Center to find out about your mayoral candidates. Thank you for coming out and informing yourselves. On behalf of the Chamber of Commerce serving Pitt Meadows and Maple Ridge, my name is Ken Holland. I'll be moderating this. It's going to be, if we have time at the end, I know we said 3 hours, we're going to try to bring it down to 2 because we know everybody has lives out there. If there's questions at the end, I'm not wearing my glasses, I can't see you. If there's time at the end, there will be questions from the audience. So thank you very much. I'm going to introduce the candidates in alphabetical order to begin with. And then as we go down the question line, we're going to be starting this way and then that way. And then at the end, we'll start from the end of the alphabetical list for the closing statements. So I'd like to introduce you to your mayoral candidates. Miss Carissa Bell. Miss Darlene Bernard. Mr. Jacques Blackstone. Mr. Mike Morton. And Mr. Dan Rumi. All right, thank you. I got to get to my official duty now. All right, candidates. We're going to start with the first question right off the bat. All right? Opening statements. Yeah, you're right.
Then it's on our toes.
I know, right? Okay, so we'll start with Darlene.
Okay.
Hello.
I don't know.
Hello.
Okay, it took me a while to get mine working too.
Hello.
They can put tape on it. Right over the button.
Oh, we can't do it now.
I know, right? Bye,
Testing,
everybody.
testing.
There you go, perfect. You got it working? Technical difficulties.
Hi, I'm Darlene Bernard, and I'm running for mayor. You might ask, why am I running for mayor? Well, I'm tired of watching our green spaces being destroyed and plugged with housing. I'm also concerned about the negative impact rapid development is having on our wildlife, specifically black bears and their survival. I'm also concerned about our existing infrastructure. Can it take more stress with new developments? Plus, are there emergency plans in place? Should one or maybe 2 of those complexes go up at the same time? How are they going to be housed? How are they going to be fed? How are they going to be clothed? Do we have an emergency response team? There's no emergency response team for the flood area. And there hasn't been for years. This is disgusting and unacceptable. Yet, they are pushing for more development in the flood area. And there's still no local employment available, so people do not have to commute outside the city. Still paying for garbage pickup on our property, still paying for garbage pickup separately, not included in our property taxes, like every province in Canada usually does. Well, a vote for me will allow me to work towards creating a more strategic development plan. With respect to local employment, I would like to create a local wildlife sanctuary, one that would allow us to placed are critters. Due to displacement, when they're injured, it could serve as a holding spot so that we can humanely decide what happens to them next for their survival. I would also like to utilize our local farms as a source of green space and community gardens I would like to utilize our green space as a source of community gardens, as well as create employment with our farms. This would allow us not only to create employment, but also to create a stable food source so that we wouldn't have to import our fruits and vegetables. With regards to housing, I would like to look at co-op and geared to income. For those suffering from substance abuse, I would like to look at treatment first with a gradual step approach. I would also like to work with those political parties responsible for our health care. Doctors should be held accountable when they go away on holidays or if they retire. They took a Hippocratic oath for us. Think about it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Ms. Bell, opening statements.
Okay. The mayor's chair doesn't belong to any one person. It doesn't belong to any one party or any slate. It belongs to the people of Maple Ridge. Hi everyone, I'm Carissa Bell. I'm a candidate for mayor for this beautiful city that we all live in. And some of you may remember me from the Fight HST campaign, or perhaps you remember me from advocating for free hospital parking, which is still on my radar going forward. I was first elected to City Council in 2011 and was re-elected in 2014, and I had the most votes in the polls, and I was so grateful for that. My decision to run for mayor came on the wings of wanting to make a difference and the willingness to do things differently. I want to return City Hall to the people. It's my belief that the gift of community is one of the greatest gifts we can give to one another, and that we lead happier, more productive, longer lives when we turn to each other rather than turn on each other. Invigorating our downtown and solving parking and traffic problems aren't new ideas. They have been prioritized in campaign literature and talked about by politicians for at least 4 decades. It's probably been even longer that taxpayers have been complaining about the lack of commercial and industrial. So we sit here, another 4 years have passed with very little change seen, but plenty of promises. Everything has always been promised to us that is just around the corner. That's why I've decided to run for mayor and return to City Hall. I want to finally move these conversations for us forward by working together. I have experience and qualifications, 7 years as a city councillor and 2 terms as president of the Lower Mainland Local Government Association, representing 2.4 million people and their 33 municipalities and their 3 regional districts. I have more information about my credentials, including that I had, for 7 years, sat on the acting mayor rotation. And I invite you to check out my website, carissabell.com, for more information. More important than my qualifications and experience, I believe, is my personality. We've been through 4 CAOs in 4 years. One of our councillors has been missing since September 2021, and we just faced another councillor in court action. This infighting must end, and we must lead for our community. I will have a steady hand and lead with the understanding that each and every councillor has been chosen by the people of Maple Ridge, and automatically, due to our democracy, we need to listen to each and every person that's elected by the people. I will have a steady hand and will lead with the understanding that each and every councillor has been chosen by you. One of my first duties will be to advocate for the revision of the Councillor Code Conduct Bylaw. Having begun this work on developing this bylaw during my last term on council in 2018, I was disappointed to see the original intent to foster a culture of tolerance for different points of views had been dismissed. As an independent, I see differing points of view as healthy representations of the varied viewpoints that come from those that elect us. Over the last couple of councils, I see us bending more towards a tribalism type mentality, and no one seems willing to compromise. No one sees the benefits of exchanging viewpoints to get a better result. That's why I'm not a fan of slates. Thank you to the Chamber and to each one of you for caring to be here tonight and listening to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Carissa. Mr. Morton.
I'm going to stand up while I'm sitting. Hi, I'm Mike Morton. I'm currently the mayor of Maple Ridge, and I very proudly serve in this office. I have served 2 terms on council, and I'm a private business owner. I owned and operated 3 successful businesses in our community. Had a humbling experience in 2014 and saw that there were a lot of problems going on in our city, and was given a timeout, but I've always served Maple Ridge, always. So I went onto the board of the Chamber of Commerce. I've been a member for 31 years now, and I was elected as president to represent business in this community. Small business is the core of our economy, and it's what gave me, my family and I, an amazing income, our ability to be able to provide employment to people and understand what the needs are. But the business community here has always been very small, and we're big on house building and not so big on building business. So in 2018 I was elected as mayor, and I have proudly served for 4 years. We've done a tremendous amount. There were a lot of difficulties when I arrived at City Hall with my colleagues on council. We spent 4 years, frankly, cleaning up. There was no strategic plan in place. There was no customer satisfaction surveys. There was very little engagement to find out what we were doing right and what we were doing wrong. That's a major important piece that you got to make sure that what you're doing is right and the public agree with what you're up to. The first thing we set about doing was going to court and closing down Tent City. We did that. It took us a period of time to do it. It is the city of Maple Ridge that launched this court action. We appreciate that there were a lot of things that were going on there. It was a camp that was established by protesters, activists. It was a paid initiation to get this going for various political purposes. There were a lot of people that got taken advantage of this. There were neighborhoods that were in distress. The community was upset. Residential neighborhoods were dealing with a lot of property crime because people are having difficulties getting access to the help that they need, and that comes from broken healthcare. That's not to say that healthcare professionals are not good at their jobs. It's the framework of delivery. We don't focus on outcomes. So this is a real critical piece here, is that we support each other. We support our business community. We support everybody to be the best we possibly can, and that's how you're going to build a great city. And we have got 14 plans underway. The very first one, of course, is to put the strategic plan together, which we did, and put together an amazing community social safety initiative, which is about building a compassionate social safety net, but one that would be strong on crime to ensure that we're deterring bad behavior, understanding the difference in between dangerous criminal activity and those that are struggling in their lives, and to use community safety officers, which was a first in BC and has been copied by 15 other communities now in a First Nation, as a best practice on how to take a compassionate approach, but also a firm one, so that we're driving accountability all the way across the borders to ensure that best possible outcomes are happening for the very people that we're trying to help, and for those around that are living in neighborhoods or throughout our city, because if you want to build a city that you're going to be proud of, that's going to have everything that you need, you best make sure that everybody is lifted up and that you support everybody. That includes the business community, and we'll talk about some of the major plans that are underway as we go forward through some of the questions here. I'm very proud of the work that my colleagues on council have done, and as I said, we've got 14 plans underway, and we want to see those through. And that will build the balance that we've been looking for, moving away from just home building and getting to a balanced, complete community where everything is here that you want for you and your family. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Dan Rumi.
Good evening. My name is Dan Rumi, and I'm running to be your mayor this October.
Many of you already know me from when I owned Bean Around Books, or from when I was your Member of Parliament from 2015 to 2019. What you may not know about me is that I spent the better part of my career in the restaurant industry holding various positions such as Director of Training and Director of Operations. In all, I've trained hundreds and hundreds of new franchise owners on how to start and manage their restaurants. I've literally opened up over 140 franchise restaurants myself. I've been asked many times, why am I running for mayor? I felt a need and a responsibility to step up and get things done. As an MP, I was able to secure tens of millions of dollars from the feds to help fund projects like the 4-laning of the highway to Mission. From Canada Summer Jobs to childcare spaces to infrastructure projects like the Albion Community Centre, I was able to work with all levels of government to secure funding to get these projects off the ground. What really drives me? Number one, our youth need more supports and must be given a chance to experience more. I believe so strongly in this that in 2017, I donated my coffee shop to the Pathfinders Youth Center Society, which works with youth at risk. As well, for a city our size, a post-secondary institution is an absolute must. Quality of life for seniors is critical to maintaining a balanced and healthy lifestyle. We are hearing from seniors that there is a desperate need for affordable housing for them, as well as consistent and easier access to recreational facilities. Affordable housing is an issue we see everywhere. Senior levels of government are constantly finding ways to try to fund them. As a city, we can do our part by streamlining municipal permitting and rezoning processes to fast-track development of affordable rental housing. We are facing many complex issues in our community, such as homelessness. I really believe that we need to meet this head-on, but we cannot do it alone. It's going to take all of us working together to find solutions. The environment is also very important to me. There's no denying that our world is facing unprecedented weather patterns that is wreaking havoc on our land, such as forest fires and flooding. We must apply an environmental lens when improving all development projects. As a former business owner, our economy is a priority for me. For far too long, the residential homeowners of Maple Ridge have had to bear the burden of high taxes. We need to attract and build a stronger economic base. City Hall must find ways to make it easier to start a business here. We know that infrastructure and amenities are lacking and we need to catch up. Community engagement was a cornerstone of my term and will be an essential part of our council. My vision for Maple Ridge must be in part your vision. You live, work, and play here. This is your home. You should have a say as to what our city will look like in the next 10 to 20 years. We need to make sure projects are designed about what we, the people, need. Yes, we need to work with developers. Developers are critical to moving forward. But let me be clear. For developers need to be able to meet the needs of our community, not the other way around. So when we talk about this, it's so important to understand that building codes and environmental criteria must be met. The Better Maple Ridge team want to work with developers to make sure that projects reflect the needs of people, to ensure that there is appropriate parking, including bike storage and electrical charging stations for both cars and e-bikes. Having affordable childcare spaces in new developments will go a long way in helping young families to get back to work. We must attract the kind of businesses that bring the kind of shopping that our residents are demanding. Thank you, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you very much. Mr. Blackstone?
Hi everyone, Jacques Blackstone here, running for mayor, and I don't know about you guys, but I'm freezing, so sorry, I had to put my coat on over here. I don't have a speech prepared, just gonna wing it. I'm running for mayor. I'm not a politician, never was, never will be. The day I become a politician, kick me out of office. I'm a digital cinema technician. I got 2 boys, and I'm just frustrated with the world and where everything's going nowadays. I want to use the mayor's seat position, access to media at the same time. The world needs to be informed about the World Economic Forum. I don't know if any of you know about it. Raise your hand if anybody's heard of the WEF. Awesome, it's starting to happen. So you've all heard Klaus Schwab talking, going, we have penetrated through those cabinets over half. So you know what, it trickles down to a lot of levels, and the thing that's frightening to me is The position of mayor and council and school board trustee was created for we, the people, to be able to control our own municipality. There should be zero party affiliations. There should be no ideologies coming in from anybody, but from our community. So the primary thing that I want to take care of, love what Carissa said, we gotta clinch our food. So to promote businesses locally, I want to ensure that all of our grocery stores sell only what is grown locally. I don't want to see garlic from China anymore. We got to start breaking this. We got to control our food. So that way I will promote our local growers. Whatever we can't grow, sure, bring that stuff in. I'm not saying don't import it. Check out my website, mr22.ca. I mean, I'm going to be bouncing all over the place. I have a grand vision. I might be absolutely nuts, and part of me is. That I would hate to see Maple Ridge turn into another carbon copy community, just like Langley, Cloverdale, Surrey, big box store, condominium towers, light rail line, This is Agenda 21, people. This is World Economic Forum. This is all pre-planned for us to be just cattle and sheep. I'm sorry. I had a chance as a kid to grow up and run around in backyards, ride a bicycle around, blah, 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 all that stuff. That's what we need to concentrate more on. Do we need condominium towers and stuff? Yeah, they're needed in certain areas, but to focus on it and bring in big box stores, forget it. I would rather see Maple Ridge become something that does not exist in Lower Mainland or BC or realistically in Canada. We should become like an entertainment mecca of BC, to where now everybody in the Lower Mainland is just going to come here. We're going to have world-class style resorts over here. Let's try to bring Playland over here. They tried to move years ago from where they are now over here. Let's get other people involved. Let's get a water park going. Let's get hiking trails, bicycle trails, and let's cover the whole place with domes that open in areas so we can enjoy it all year round. And that's one thing I've never understood living in British Columbia, where it rains so much. You can't walk outside, you just get rained on for over half the year. So personally, like sidewalks going to the mall over here from senior community, I would rather see it nice little covered area so everybody can go for a nice walk outside when it's pissing with rain in January. So the main part is, like I said earlier, I want to use the mayoral seat to be able to be a voice of the people, access to the media, get informed on things, and I don't want to sit there and create more panels and fund more studies as what are we going to do with the homeless and what are we going to do with this and all that stuff. No, let's start getting shit done. I've actually got ideas on what to do with that, and I'm running out of time. I'm down to 8 seconds. I can't tell you about it right now, but it's been nice talking to you.
Thank you very much. If you could please pass the mic down, I'm going to start with...
No, I'm hogging it for the rest
I
of
can
the
tell. I'm going to start with Miss Bernard, and I'm going to move back down, and then I'll move back up and down the aisle. Okay. Thank you for your opening statements, and I want to give a shout out to the Maple Ridge Senior Center for allowing us to have this space tonight. Miss Bernard, yes. Your first question. If elected, how would you encourage and support small business?
Thank you for the question. I would look at minimizing costs, such as look at giving tax breaks and also the rent, and also looking at whether or not landlords are here or absent. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Bell, do you want me to repeat the question?
No, I'm good, thank you. Okay, we don't shop in a way that we used to shop, not by any stretch of the imagination anymore. Our traditional malls are empty and streets are full of Amazon vehicles, and that's the reality that we're living in today. And so how can the city help this? How can we support business? What are my ideas? I think that a really good place to start is to look at returning city funding to the local chamber so they can further their efforts. I sat on the chamber for 2 years after choosing not to run in 2018, 1 year as a director and a second year as vice president, and I recognize that we're one of the few municipalities that doesn't financially support and contribute to our chamber, and I think that that's really important. I'd also like to see small business have more city-sponsored access to information like advertising, marketing, technology. There's always new and evolving technologies that are available that I continually see us missing out on. We need a wide range of tailored topics out on a social media big plan to communicate not just locally but regionally so people know what we have here. We could use the help with City Hall and all of the Economic Development Office, the Brain Trust that is already there, to help design and present these programs along with community partners. Business has to realize that very high on shoppers' lists of priorities is selection, and this is where we really need to look at changing our attitude towards big business and see how it complements smaller business in today's world. There's obvious things such as parking and traffic congestion, specifically in the downtown. I think it's important we develop a uniqueness and give citizens a reason to shop downtown. We have amazing, talented city gardens operating on a shoestring budget. We could really beautify our community. And with gardening being the #1 hobby in North America, I could just see how stunning our community could look, and with public participation. More events, especially those geared towards kids and families, would be one solution. Probably key on my list is to support small businesses, would be to innovate a campaign to change the narrative of how shopping locally pays dividends to everyone. Not only would we be growing our local economy, we'd be creating jobs at home as well. We would be supporting the people who support our community. When was the last time that we saw Amazon or Walmart on the back of our Little League jerseys? Where do we see in the arenas that they're supporting our community in everyday life? Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Morton, if elected, how would you encourage and support small business?
Okay, if I'm re-elected, I want to continue the work that we've done and we're doing right now, and that's 14 plans in place, which we've got many underway, and we do have a lot of these things in hand. So services at City Hall, people that want to invest in your city want red carpet service, and that's being set up right now. There are people being hired right now to do much more robust communications and engagement program. Economic Development Department has got a new leader, and there is a program that's going into place now to be able to support business, but also to engage with the entire existing business community, because I'd like to see people like Big Valley Heating and people like that have their names on our sports jerseys, and I'm not a big fan of Amazon. I want to see Maple Ridge people working at home in jobs that we create for them as part of our 2,400 acre employment. This is planned. So this is 2,400 acres of employment have been scheduled for to have you working close to home. We don't want to see 65% of our people commuting to leave town anymore. We want to see them working right here. We've got a beautiful environment. We've got wonderful people that live here, but they're tired. And they're frustrated that the services are not here. And many people would love to utilize services right here. Shopping mall didn't happen by accident. Haney Place Mall is coming out. That's 2.5 million feet of redevelopment. It's done, I've seen the blueprints. This is real. 7 towers, 20-story towers. I have 2 blueprints on my desk right now for tower developments down in the low heat corridor. We have created an environment where we're investment ready. And the reason why, because we've operated our city on a much more customer service approach. We listen to what it is that you're looking for. We see how we can accommodate into the plans. And the plans are all now about responsible development, about the city that you really want. We looked at a city of 2050. What is the city, Stockholm? What does Stockholm look like in 2050? And you work your way back, you create your plans, you figure out how you're going to finance them, and it's got to have balance. It's got to be looked through the lenses of social, financial, and environmental, and you've got to have a great plan to pay for all these things, and that's another subject matter on your item here. So we want people to be working here, create employment for them, but not boxes with robots in them. We want employment for people, quality jobs. And we have 1,300 acres allocated specifically for clean industrial and technology development. Post-secondary, we have transit investments. You're going to have a BRT rapid transit service from Evergreen SkyTrain all the way to downtown Maple Ridge. That didn't happen by accident. That happened through collaboration with the Northeast sector mayors, and we got more than what we asked for. The opening of the 4 lanes on the north end of the Golden Ears Bridge, widening of the Abernathy corridor to jobs. We got so much on the go here, and we're planning on building you the best possible city that will have it all, including great recreation.
Thank you very much. Mr. Broomy, do you want the question repeated?
No, but I'll repeat it. If elected, how would you encourage and support small businesses? That's the question. And here's the thing. So my background, I have a very diverse business background. I actually taught at Douglas College in the self-employment program. On top of all the people that I trained to run restaurants and open businesses. One of the challenges that we have here, when we look at our existing businesses, just put the future business on hold for a second, our current businesses have been lacking staff. That's their number one issue. They do not have staff. So first of all, the city should be working with the local Chamber of Commerce, and I do believe that they should be funding a portion of that as well. But they should be working with them to figure out how do we attract employees to actually work at these businesses. I mean, currently, the pool is closed half the time because there is no staff. So what are we doing to actually encourage people to live here? Well, there's the second part of the problem. There is no place to rent. You need to fix that problem. By building affordable rental housing, you will start to attract bigger, larger businesses that are stable, but can have staff that can actually find a place to live here. This is our biggest problem. Yes, we're building condos all over the place, but where's all the rentals? What about the youth that have no place to actually rent because there's nothing available? We're jumping ahead, but we're skipping our own people here. We need to be able to service our people and our businesses. They go hand in hand. So the city needs to be more involved by creating innovation days to try to attract innovative companies that can actually work here, start their businesses here, and the city has to make it easier to actually get that done. When I actually went to City Hall to put a sink in my coffee shop, I had to go back, one sink, had to go back 14 times. 14 times. They kept telling me, no, send your contractor to me. I don't have a contractor, it's just me. So why would anybody want to come here when it's such a challenge to start a business? So there's a lot of complex pieces that are going on. But by far, we need rental accommodation, we need to find solutions to how do we attract more staff here. And just thinking about different government programs. When I started in 2015 as an MP, Canada Summer Jobs, we got $250,000 of funding. By the time I left, we got $700,000 of funding. Why? Because I went and I knocked on the doors and I talked to businesses and I encouraged them to apply. City Council needs to be out in businesses. They need to be our most vocal cheerleaders if we want to grow our economic base and relieve some of the tax burden on the residential tax owners. And I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Blackstone, want me to repeat the question, or do you have it in front of you?
No, I got it in front of me. I'm good. Thank you. You know what? That's a really tough answer. I mean, I've been running my own business for over 30 years, and I know the struggles of it, but thank God I'm a home-based business, and I don't have to deal with permits and all that kind of stuff that I just hear. The obvious answer that way is to get rid of red tape and make things easier for people to start. Just like the same thing with banks, when they look at a new business, the first 3 years, they don't even look at you because you're a potential bankruptcy. Then after that, they start looking at you, well, maybe we need reverse thinking here, that the first 3 years, we should make things as affordable and easy as possible for you to get started and get your business going. Once you got a foothold, then maybe our rates should start going up, whatever. Should be all open for discussion. I don't have a plan. I'm not gonna blow smoke up at anybody's ass. I have no idea. All that I know is Maple Ridge, I mean, is a bitch to drive around. They're developing more and more, and the roads are staying the goddamn same. This is what needs to change. If we go with my vision and it works out in the end of an amusement park, well, you can just imagine the tens of thousands of jobs that that would actually create. When it comes to the TransLink aspect, if we create these world-class resorts over here where they're going to be kissing our butts and they'll be building anything that we want over here, and in my vision, believe me, this would be completely separate from Maple Ridge. It would be like an access roads to come to, and anybody that lives in Maple Ridge, you're around this area and you're not infiltrated by all these other cars. And to have our own parking and our own gate, so citizens will pay like a token price of $1 or $2 to go in for your family and enjoy this park and reap the benefits of it. And if it works out in the end and we can make it a world-class resort, I can imagine the money that would come here and be dumped. I could see that everybody's property taxes would completely disappear. Am I crazy? You be the judge. I love the laughter. But like I said, I mean, just look at my website. Like I said, I'm not a politician. I haven't done this stuff before. I just know that I'm fed up and I want a better Canada for my children, because the road that we're going right now, we're just becoming another bloody carbon community. What's anybody going to do about affordable housing? I mean, it's the real estate prices and the prices of contractors. What, you're going to start changing this and we're going to dump more of our taxes into this? No, I've got a vision on a different way of doing this. If you want to be a builder in the city and you've got more than one project you're building in this city, it should be almost like a jury duty in that case. Let the city become the contractor, get the contracts with the lumber places and all the supplies, get the supplies for a cheap price, and hire these contractors to build it and just be the labor. I'm done.
Thank you very much. Send that mic right back down the line, unless you want another question right now.
What's the question?
Okay, you ready? If elected, what would you do to improve the reputation and vibrancy of our business community?
What I just said. You know, I mean, it's promotion. I mean, seriously, people. I mean, think globally, act locally. I'm gonna ask everybody, and you know what? I've fallen in the last couple of years. My whole life, I never shopped at Walmart. But being a single dad right now and how the prices have gone up, I'm shopping at Walmart. I hate giving the Walton family my money, but I'm saving dollars here and there. I just moved. My rent in my house is $3,600 bloody dollars a month. It's double what my mortgage was. This is insane. So I would rather promote small businesses that have all of this stuff, and we all gotta shop locally to help ourselves. Like I said earlier, cut the red tape on all this, make it easier for everybody. I would hate to see more big box stores over here, because I'm sorry, all the profits are going to them. For what? To give a token job to somebody who's 20 years old, going to be paid minimum wage? Where's our benefit from this? To lower our property taxes a little bit? No, we're not helping anything that way. We need to start thinking outside the box. Stop looking at a carbon copy of absolutely everything. Let's come together and discuss. I want to hear your ideas at the same time. Maybe you've got a better idea than I do. I don't know. This is where your voice needs to be heard. And as your mayor, I'm on TikTok. I freaking love TikTok. You know what? I'm going to be blasting stuff online too. I'm going to be creating lives at the same time. Talk to me. And I'll be accessible in the office to ask me any questions, give me ideas, bitch at me if you want. Tell me what the problems are. I need to know, because I've got my own issues where I live, and that's what I know. I got 1 minute and 9 seconds. Can I just say whatever I want from here on?
You don't have to speak. It's up to you.
I could do a song and dance at the same time?
You got 1 minute left.
Okay, I got 1 minute. Does anybody have a quick question for me? How's that? Reverse it. Got one. What? Amazon?
What do you think of Amazon?
I don't want anybody to buy from Amazon anymore. I don't. Buy what you can't find in a store. Like, I've got turntables from 1982. The belts blew on them, and I could only find it on Amazon. I won't buy anything else, because you know what? I'll sit in my car, I'll pay the gas, I'll go drive to a local store and buy it, instead of giving it to Bezos to go fly off into space. One more quick one. You, sir. 18 seconds.
Oh, that's different. I was going to ask you about
I'm not sure yet which location.
Okay, anyway, the safety of the citizens downtown, because it's a mess downtown.
3 seconds.
Oh, it's a mess. It's nasty. It's horrible.
Time's up. Thank you very much. Mr. Rumi, if elected, what would you do to improve the reputation and vibrancy of our business community?
Well, a couple of things just wanted to respond to. I mean, Amazon pops up all the time, and it's easy to say, don't shop at Amazon. But where are you going to shop here? We don't have the type of shops that we actually need to service our community of 100,000 population. This question is one that has bothered me for some time. If you want to improve the reputation and vibrancy of our business community, for God's sake, stop telling the world how bad we are over here. Okay? We have crime was going down in 2018. Crime continues to go down now. Yes, there is crime for sure, but you know what? We have some homeless people. Every city has homeless people. They are not destroying the city. If we keep telling businesses that homeless people are destroying our city, why would they want to come here? So if you want to improve relations, if you want to improve the reputation, start talking about our beautiful community, the parks, the bike lanes, everything that we have here that makes it so attractive that you want to live here. If elected, we will start a campaign to actually go the other direction. We want to encourage people to come down. We want to invite businesses to come down and see what a beautiful place this is, not only to live, but to work here. The new age is all about digital. You don't necessarily all need to hop on a train or in your car to go downtown. You can do stuff online. This is why there's a big push to get the entire country on broadband internet, because we know small communities actually benefit from that because they can actually sell their wares, right? So if we have, why can't we do a massive push on home-based businesses? Why can't we make it easier for home-based businesses to actually do business here? We don't. It's a nightmare trying to get a permit here. And that needs to stop. We have a reputation, and I will tell you this, my time in Ottawa, I got sick of it. We were known as the city of hate. I kid you not, it was in the papers, this stuff made it all the way to Ottawa. Every time I got up to talk about Maple Ridge, I talked about the great things here. We have the best volunteers in the country, but we expect them to come out every single time. Do we do anything for them? Is there any plan to help our volunteers and recognize our volunteers? No, there's not. So we have a lot of work ahead of us, and it starts with being the cheerleader for our city here and our community, and that's what we're going to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Morton, if re-elected, what would you do to improve the reputation and vibrancy of our business community?
I guess the first thing I did when I was mayor, and I've always operated the mayor's office this way, is having an open phone line. It's published, it's my cell number, people call me all the time and they tell me what's going on. So I don't call us a city of hate. What I hear from people is their frustration. And the frustration is with things like healthcare, not able to access housing. I've had seniors in my office saying, I can't get into this brand new building here because it's not affordable. And it's because when municipal governments, that's not their role, is to provide subsidized housing. We're in the city of Maple Ridge, we built nothing but tons and tons of housing and not a lot of other things. And so we have plans underway to balance the tax base with 2,400 acres of employment lands that will take care of that aspect of it, but other forms of diverse income as well. And we built more housing, and we're doing it in a responsible way in massive density. 150,000 people without going into the urban reserve will be in the city of Maple Ridge if we follow through with the plans that we've got. That's about responsible land use. We can't even afford to maintain our own infrastructure. It's mentioned here that there are a lot of things that we're not attending to. I could spend $1 billion in the next year. I kid you not. That's what the needs look like. Recreation facilities, stormwater management, taking care of, there are so many needs in the city that we've not attended to for a city of 91,000 people. But the first things that I did, I went out and I knocked on some of the doors that in my private business world, and I asked them, what can I do to help you? And for instance, smart centers. Took me 3 years, 17 tries, and finally they said, yes, we'll sell it. And Lorval Developments now are the owners of that mall, and this is what it takes. I mean, you know what, in my business world, I just did it by hard work, knocking on the doors, telling them that I'm there for them, seeing what I can do to help them, and then always being open to receiving the calls. That's how we have changed the whole approach within the city, is to become customer service. I remember a former councillor telling me when I was, Councillor Linda King, I don't mind mentioning her, she had a lot of great things to offer, but when I first mentioned customer service, she said, we don't do customer service here, we do government. And I said, you know what, government doesn't work for the people. I said, it's our job to serve the people, the business community, and the people that live here. And you guys have a lot of struggles, and I can tell you, I've heard it all in the mayor's office, particularly during a pandemic. It's been very difficult on our people, on the business community, on the people in homes. It's been difficult to hear a lot of the stories. And the way that we fix all this is we build a city around us that we focus on supporting each other where everything is here. So we stop going to other places and we look after each other, and that includes the business community. And that's the approach that I've taken along with my colleagues on council. We've done a great job.
Thank you. Ms. Bell, what would you do to improve the reputation and vibrancy of our business community?
Well, I think it's very critical that we first recognize the devastating social and economic impact the city struggles with under the weight of our homeless and addiction problems. It is a real conversation, and that's why it is being heard across the country. It's being recognized. Number one, we need to admit that we have a problem and that it's not getting better, and look at it realistically. We need to look at it collaboratively with all our partners and other municipalities in the Lower Mainland. We have 33 other local governments that we can be working with actively, ongoing in these conversations. I don't believe that we're going to solve these issues one municipality at a time. We're told that crime is going down. Last year we had 8 shootings, 4 of them since April. The jewelry store in the mall has just been robbed 3 times in the last month. It's a matter of perception versus reality. Reality is that Maple Ridge has challenges with homelessness and addiction. And this lands on the 6 o'clock news so often that it's become our brand as a community. Sadly, we won't turn things around until we actually turn things around, until other levels of government realize that what we're doing is not working. And there's a lot of advocacy that this next council needs to do and needs to know how to do. I don't believe that it's all lost. We have a beautiful community with so much potential and so many caring people, and we can capitalize on what we do have and strive to highlight all of our positives while creating more positives by bringing positive activity into our community on an ongoing basis and consulting with our youth to ensure that they're seeing the future in their community that they want to live in and that they want to inherit the responsibility for. I think community connection, especially with business, will play an important role. And as your mayor, I will ensure that the chamber is heard at council, is welcome at council, an ongoing relationship. We have to realize that we're no longer a small town, and we need to realize that without sacrificing our small town feel that everyone loves, even those that are visiting here. Alberta is at the forefront of the change on how addiction is being handled. BC is focusing on reducing harm to users, and Alberta is saying that addiction is a chronic health condition and focuses on treatment. Alberta has seen overdose reduction, deaths at 47% as they've been investing in treatment as opposed to safe supply. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Bernard, what would you do to improve the reputation and vibrancy of our business community if elected?
Thank you for the question. First of all, I think I would give the business community an identity. We don't see that at all right now. And also, it has to operate with the city, the best interest of the city at heart. First, to create business, I know I always think, why can't we have an Amazon? Why can't we have that type of delivery or business here? I've thought about, the malls, they're in a great place. I'd like to twin the malls. I would not destroy a perfectly good building for the sake of putting in underground parking and maybe some more living space. As I said, it has to be strategic. But to be visible, maybe encourage local businesses to support a local community soccer team, baseball team, lacrosse team, get out there. And chambers or who's ever responsible, make sure that they can afford to do this for our community. Our community is important, and yes, I agree with Carissa, we're losing our small town feeling, and it is a concern, and we do have to grow. We have to grow strategically. So thank you.
Thank you. I will continue with you on the next question, but I just want to thank again everybody for coming out here in this world of information and so many different platforms. Thank you for coming out here and listening to the candidates and forming your own opinions. Thank you very much. Back to Ms. Bernard. How are you planning to remove barriers and simplify processes for business in Maple Ridge?
Yeah, I'm hearing there's quite a lot of red tape. So that would be my first step, is looking at what the problems are to obtaining the proper business credentials and be able to function with that. I would like to decrease, as I said earlier, taxes and maybe fees and allow businesses to work, to continue. Also, businesses have been hit hard with COVID, and I think they deserve a break. It's some way of maybe some type of rebate or something where they can afford to get on their feet again, because COVID was really hard on them, and I really feel they deserve a break. Maybe we can look at that too, because I believe not being able to afford to start a business is a huge problem. So yeah, thank you for this time.
Thank you. Ms. Bell?
Well, council sets the policy direction for the city. It's actually the administration that implements that direction. And once again, I really feel that it's really important that we get to the root of the problems and identify the issues that businesses see as barriers. We've been hearing feedback for over a decade that I've been hearing myself personally. And there's very little improvements in this conversation. Experienced this firsthand while sitting on the Chamber of Commerce. Almost impossible, like at a meeting with the city. No ongoing relationship. It's not feeling like there is a relationship there to foster. So I really believe that we need to start again. We need to start over, and we need to do things differently. And one way to do this is that we really need to invite everybody from the business community into a town hall type scenario, maybe held at the ACT or maybe held here. And we need to hear directly from those and real experiences. When I was first elected to council and talking about these actively around the table, I was told simply it wasn't the case, that this wasn't happening. And we're still, this long later, that was 2011, we're still trying to figure out how to do business in Maple Ridge. We very desperately need to run City Hall like a business. It's a corporation, and we need to look at how we handle business with development and with application processes from a business lens. Hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars are being tied up for 3 to 4 years. This doesn't give business a good name in Maple Ridge. This doesn't tell industry that we're open for business. So what we need to do is invite everyone together and have a really deep, meaningful conversation, and then act, and not continue to do more studies and not continue to revisit the same conversations over and over again, but instead to create solutions and then to act on them. We need to use technology platforms that other cities are already using. We should be implementing these as these upgrades are made and available. Everyone else is functioning at such a high level, and we really still need to recognize how important it is to move forward in our business practices in our community. We should definitely be encouraging staff to streamline as much as possible. At this point, I'm being continually told while campaigning that calls aren't even being returned from staff, and that many planners are on stress leave themselves.
Sorry, that's time. Thank you. Mr. Morton, should I repeat the question?
Thank you. This is probably my number one thing that I deal with every day. People that have challenges with our service delivery. I don't mind telling you, it's not necessarily there's bad people, but there's a bad structure and a framework around them. And they operate in silos, they're not well supported, they're not well measured. When I want information, it takes me days to get it come back to me to say, how can I support this inquiry that's looking to invest millions of dollars in our community? And so that's part of my job, is to identify all these things, listen to the challenges that arrive, and then make policy recommendations back into my council. And a lot of those things have been happening. 100% the building department was extremely problematic. The management all left on one day at one time. It was necessary. We went through cultural transformation sessions to try and encourage service delivery approach, to ensure that the very things that Mr. Ruby and Ms. Bell identified are a problem. There's no need to identify it, and these things that take time cost people money. And people are waiting and they're wanting to make investments. You best be ready to deliver them quickly. We, in the mayor's office, as well as my colleagues on council, offer responsive service, and we listen to those needs and we bring them back in. And then the administrative officer, chief administrative officer, then takes them in, and we work on more effective policies to be able to make the city more efficient. Building department was reviewed. We're on the planning department now, and it is the greatest cost driver in housing from the municipal perspective that there is. Holding charges on land and projects, and in an expensive part of the world that we're in now with interest rates and materials, these performers for people that want to invest in your community is incredibly difficult to meet them. So we're very aware of that. The minister, in fact, made it very clear to us that if we didn't get this under control, that he was going to do it for us. Local government autonomy and being able to shape the future of your own city is really important. There's a lot of people out there that want to make sure that we've got everything we need and not have it imposed upon us. And we've had impositions in this city far too many times. 3 cabinet orders for a start. And now the minister's threatening on taking individual single lots and saying no permit process and you can put 3 houses there, because he's got a mission to build housing. Not okay. Local government needs to be in charge of its future. And we have a great plan underway to ensure that all those things are met, to have a complete city with regards to recreation and housing. But as far as the service process is concerned, a digital platform for a start, completely missing in the city, and we're working on that. That's a $1 million investment to be able to have information immediately, and it should be there. People shouldn't have to wait for this. We're a tax-paid service, and we owe it to be able to deliver it now, not in months. And that's all underhand right now, all those processes, that's part of those 14 plans. I need to build $1 billion worth of stuff.
Thank you, Mr. Morton, sorry.
I was getting excited there.
I know. Mr. Rumi, how are you planning to remove barriers? Hey, no fighting for the mic.
Did you want to borrow some of my time? You can borrow some of my time if you like.
How are you planning to remove barriers and simplify processes for business in Maple Ridge?
So, one of the things when I was an MP, I was very big on community engagement. It's not about showing up and saying hi, getting a picture taken. It's about staying there for 2-3 hours. It's about engaging the population. That's what's so important. So the first step is we do need to go back to our businesses and find out, take the temperature of our businesses. Where are they feeling? What are their challenges today? I already told you my challenges was getting a sink into my business 14 times. Has that changed? From what I'm hearing, likely not. We've heard a lot about red tape. Well, I can tell you as a federal MP, there's red tape that makes the federal government make you do certain regulations, that the province makes you do regulations. Some of them cross over. Is there an opportunity to actually get rid of something here that's already being done? We don't know. That's one of the things we're going to have to research. I think it's so important that when we get in, yes, we do need to take an audit of what is going on in all the different departments, but we need to hear from the staff. Because we can say, hey, you look good, you're great, everything's happy, but they're not going to tell you that. But if they're afraid to speak because they're afraid they're going to lose their job, then they're not going to tell you what's going on. So we need to create an environment at City Hall where people feel empowered, where people feel compelled to want to be able to speak their minds. That's what's so important. And from that, we can figure out, where do we stand today? What do we need to improve tomorrow? Where do we need to go to move forward? Talked about home businesses. I think that is an opportunity there, but we have to make it easier. And do we really need to have so many regulations for home businesses? A lot of Maple Ridge is made up of what I like to call micro businesses. They have less than 5 employees. And I can tell you personally, nobody cares about them. They can't get any help, not from the federal government, not from the provincial government, and not from the city. Why? Because they're considered micro. When we look at what the terms are, a small business is anybody less than 50 employees. But yet, most of our employers here are under 5. So how are we going to help them? Because they certainly can't leave their businesses. So we also need to go back to the chamber and ask them, what are your members telling you? Where can we improve? What's going to make it easier? What's the best things that we can do? What are the best practices happening in other cities? How can we take advantage of those best practices? Right? We can do better, and we can change some of the permitting processes to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Blackstone, how are you planning to remove barriers and simplify processes for business in Maple Ridge?
You know, it's honestly really, really difficult to answer all these questions unless you've been in office. Let's put it that way. I got these questions earlier, and I'm looking at them all, and it's almost, to me, it almost feels like sometimes it's like a focus group, and it's almost like geared to some people that can answer it better than other people. I can't give you an answer. Like I said, I'm a digital cinema technician. I create the highest end screening rooms to post-production facilities across Canada. Now you're asking me how I'm gonna help businesses in Maple Ridge. It's very difficult. I'm just being honest to you. So the obvious answer, we keep hearing the same thing, cut out the red tape. Do I wanna create more studies right now as to what the problem is and all that stuff? No, I'll be able to see it right away and go, why is this, blah, blah, blah. Maybe we should set a time limit to get permits. It's like not months anymore, 7 working days. Get her done. That's it, that's all. That's gonna be my answer in a nutshell. I got less than 2 minutes. You wanna continue with your question? I'm abusing my privilege right now. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'd really like to continue this. I mean, Dan, you got the Maple Ridge is beautiful. I've been here over 30 years. But downtown, I was downtown the other day, windows kicked in, guys shooting up on the streets, garbage everywhere, graffiti everywhere, razor wires, talking to the business people when they're broken into. People are broken into all the time. Police are not coming out as fast. A lot of them, they don't even come out at all. So that's the reality. I had to walk downtown the other day, past guys screaming their faces off. It's ugly. And I mean, it's our city, it's beautiful. So, or we have to clean it up. And if it's not clean, you can't just say, oh, it's gorgeous, come on down. And then people walk downtown, they're scared to walk downtown.
Yep. No, I agree with you. Go ahead.
That's just the reality.
Well, if you remember, the great George Carlin said a while ago in one of his routines, the reason for the homeless is to scare the middle class, right? So it's terrible what happened. We all know what happened a long time ago when they shut down the Riverview. I lived in Kitsilano at that time when that happened, and the homeless population just went through the roof. So whatever they're trying to do to help is not working. We need a new approach at this. And I agree with you completely. It's nothing, you know what, these people have a serious issue that they need to dig deep inside of them, and what caused them to be sleeping on a street, sticking a needle inside of them, okay? I'm not going against them. They have a problem in their life, and we do need to help them. And everything we're doing right now is not working, and I'm tired of us funding all these reports, and let's see what we can do to make it better. No, let's make a change.
Thank you. Just hold on to that mic for a bit. So, on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce serving Maple Ridge and Pitt Meadows, those were our business questions. We're now going to switch them up to a little bit different to encapsulate more of the stuff we think you guys might be interested in. So, starting with Mr. Blackstone, do you see the need for a better balanced property tax revenue base between commercial and residential to industrial? And if so, how do you propose that balance occurs?
Of course, and what I said there in the beginning with my vision of creating Maple Ridge into a destination. Here, I'm going to go back a long time here. Back in '86, I worked at Canada Place during Expo. And once Expo was done and everything was leveled, I'm sorry, what they've done to downtown Vancouver looks horrible to me. It's stack them and pack them. You can't park, you can't walk anywhere. It's absolutely ridiculous. I thought of it back then, and I'm not saying this for Maple Ridge. Vancouver should have turned into a Vegas of the North and just bring in the resorts over here, bring in the casinos, and let all the people come here and dump their money. We would have had something that Vegas doesn't have: the water, the mountains, Whistler, skiing, all of this stuff. But no, you know what? Everybody favored the developers. It's what the developers say. This is what I'm getting tired of. It's always favoring the developers. It's not favoring the people anymore. And this is what we need to change. One big problem that we have is the ALR. And I'm gonna be a bully on the ALR because I'm sorry, the way I've been seeing it, maybe I'm completely wrong in this aspect, but you know what? They release stuff in chunks. It's keeping the property prices up, the real estate prices up. Why do they want to do this? Tax revenue coming in more. We've got the space. We're in Canada. I know we're limited with mountains and stuff like that, but we can go further. We can develop more houses, and I would rather see houses with yards that used to exist where a kid can actually run around the house as opposed to having 4-foot path to go somewhere. The roads, they've all been developed into being so narrow that you can't park your car on the street. It's like one car's got to wait for another one to be able to go by. We need to start going back almost to old style thinking, modern approach on the whole thing, and stop listening to, this is global now, on how to develop urban and suburban areas. Can we not think for ourselves? Can we not go back to these builders and tear up the plans and go draw something better that looks like shit? And because I'm sorry, all the condo towers all across the Lower Mainland, the downtown core of Vancouver, except for a couple of buildings that look really neat, they look horrible. It's almost like they built it on purpose, as cheap as possible, get the maximum buck out of it, that in 20 years they're going to tear them down to build another one. I got 17 seconds. I'll pass the mic. Thank you.
Pass to Dan, please. So, Mr. Rumi, do you see the need for a better balanced property tax revenue base between commercial and residential to industrial? And if so, how do you propose that balance occurs?
Well, I think the only answer to that question is yes. For far too long, the residents of our city, the homeowners here, are bearing the burden of our taxes. I was looking around to buy a place back in February, and everywhere I looked, we had some of the highest property taxes here. So you're paying for that. So how can we change that? We do need to get stronger economic base. We do need to get some light industrial. But there's other things too. If you're not collaborating with the provincial government and the federal government, you're leaving money on the table. And I can tell you from my time, if I didn't go out looking for opportunities, talking to people, businesses, childcare employers, if I didn't do that, I would never have been able to get funding from them. Canada Summer Jobs, like I said, I started at $250,000. By the time I left, it was $700,000 funding. Why? Because we talked to people. We went out there. We created an environment to say that you can do this. We opened it up to small business. It was closed to small business. I opened it up to small business, right? Because I knew that as a small business employer myself, I would have loved to have the opportunity for Canada Summer Job student. It would have helped me. I would have hired somebody to do some marketing. That would have been tremendous for me, but it wasn't open to me and I couldn't take advantage of that. So what else is on the table? We talk about, there's, you know, in 2020, they put $200 million, which they haven't spent yet. It's still sitting there. We talk about DCC charges, the lowest in the Lower Mainland for years. Those need to go up and they need to be reviewed yearly. It's not a vendetta against developers. We need developers to develop our city. We need them, absolutely. But they need to be able to pay for their sidewalks and our sewers. They just can't build their for-profit building and walk away. They can't. If we want to pay, I mean, the mayor just said, we're about $1 billion. If you gave him $1 billion tomorrow, it wouldn't be enough. That's how far behind the 8 ball we are on this. So we need to be smart. We need to collaborate with the governments to get the funding that we can. We need to work with nonprofit organizations that can actually build for us, that can actually build seniors housing, that can actually build housing for single families that are on minimum wage jobs. So we can do better, and we have to. We cannot move forward on the backs of our residents. We're done. We need to move forward, and we need to find better ways of revenue. And yes, taxes is what pays for everything that we enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Morton, should I repeat the question?
Nope. My council has raised DCCs and CACs in the city of Maple Ridge in the last 4 years, 89%. It's not a small number. Who's paying for that? People that buy those homes. We're talking about housing affordability here, and the way that this is working is, well, it's not working. We have a jobs plan, the boldest jobs plan that the city of Maple Ridge has had since the Paul Rolo report going back to 2012, where it was clearly identified we need to do land use work, and we've done that. 2,400 acres has been looked at for employment. It's going to provide all those things that we need, not Amazon boxes, but quality jobs. This is industrial land the Metro Vancouver region approves. This will double our tax base from 7% to 14%. We've been playing around with this and building houses for so long. That is absolutely true. It is my council's job, and it was for 4 years, to identify all the problems and then get hijacked a bit by a pandemic. And we have so many plans underway here that we want to implement these plans. We want to see them through to build you the best city that we possibly can. And that's a complete city with communities, with businesses, with all the services you need, with great recreation. But taxes, oh yes, we are taxed to death here. Let's see, senior government has applied, what, 20 plus additional taxes. And now we've tripled the carbon tax. We checked the gas pumps lately. So City of Maple Ridge has all financial policies under review at this time to ensure that we look at every single possible way. So that isn't necessarily about balancing the tax base from, to balance it over onto commercial industrial, because we're going to double that. But that's been talked about for a long time. Well, that plan's in hand already. But we are looking at other opportunities. People from council will remember back when I was, I don't know, whatever it was, 10 years ago now, where we talked about taking advantage of other opportunities. For instance, putting technology into our streets when we had all of our streets downtown torn up, and putting in AC charging infrastructure, putting in meters, putting in Wi-Fi technology into the ground, and then having the infrastructure providers pay for it all and getting a revenue stream off of it. So my council's been quite keen on looking at every form of diversification of income sources so that we can actually relieve the burden off of both. Let's not forget that business pays 3 times the multiplier that residences do. I don't know about you, but my taxes are either $8,000 a year or something, $9,000 a year. It's a lot of money. And if you look at it, I think I get pretty good value for half of it, which is the municipal taxes. The rest of it is TransLink and schools and water and sewer, and they've never gone down yet, and they're not going to. So the only way we're going to combat this is getting ahead of it, is to diversify and strengthen our city as a unit. And we have plans in play for that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Bell, do you see the need for a better balanced property tax revenue base between commercial and residential to industrial? And if so, how do you propose that balance occurs?
I'd like to see lower taxes across the board for taxpayers. I successfully fought for this when I was in my first term, and like I said, I was successful in doing this. It just takes a lot of work. That's what it takes, is to really sit in meetings and look at what we're doing and find what we can do differently. Another thing I did the first term was successfully have our council deny council wages increases. And I very much feel so strongly that council does not need any more increases until they've earned it. And when I say earned it, I don't mean by the hours that are put in. I mean earned it as in it's visually recognizable in our community that good work has been accomplished and that it hasn't just stopped at the desk. So I feel like that's really important, and those funds can contribute to the work that needs to move forward. How long have we been talking about this imbalance? We've been talking about it at least for the last 20 years, to my knowledge, and yet the needle just hasn't moved much. And even though there has been a slight increase in DCCs and the CAC conversation as well, we are so far from where other municipalities that are growing at the same pace that we are at. And that's because for big applications like the ones that the city just put forward for the James Pattison application at 256, there's $50 million in road infrastructure that was left out of that project. That would come, we have to make up for these decisions that benefit developers out of our tax dollars, out of our families' pockets. And so I feel very strongly that we need to have a really strong relationship with the development community and make a table that they're actively involved in being responsible for the development they have here, like they are in other communities. This takes place in other communities, so it is actually, in fact, directly the people around the table making these decisions that are letting us miss out on these opportunities. I really feel that there's just too much of a burden on the 8%ers in our community. And how do we solve this? I really want us to look at all of our land in Maple Ridge. Previously, when I was on council, we spoke with the ALC, and I was able to ask them if they would come here and look at our soil and test it and see what is farmable and encourage farming. Have them come here and work with our community to encourage farming. They do this in other communities. We can do it here too. I feel that it's just so important that we take a step back and look at what we're doing and why we're doing it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Bernard, would you like me to repeat the question?
I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Yes, I have to agree with Daniel. Yes, yes, yes. Increase tax revenue and put it towards or help us decrease our taxes. I'm tired of paying such high property taxes. I think it's important that we identify businesses that can come in, set up, and be taxed and not be afraid of being taxed, and use that money towards social services. And then also that can reduce some of our taxes. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next question, starting with you. Homelessness has been brought up a lot tonight.
Yes, it does.
What is your plan for addressing the increase in homelessness in our community? For it affects everyone.
Yes, it does. And I think the first step we have to take is admitting there is a problem, like Carissa said. Secondly, Anita's place was closed, and the occupants were forced out. There was no housing plan in place. So the first thing they did for their survival was scatter. And so hence, they're everywhere. Now what I would like to see is treatment first, and then a graduation of housing for those suffering with substance abuse. I also agree with Carissa with what Alberta is doing. Harm reduction is not working. I don't know how many more numbers we need to read. It's not working. We have to have an alternative. Collect data, look at the data, see if it's working. So far, it is working. Another thing too, I do not believe in injection sites. I do not believe in clean drugs. From a health profession standpoint, what is a clean drug? How long is somebody's life gonna be extended by taking this main drug? We really have to look at and manage those who are suffering from substance abuse as well as homelessness. And I think we have to identify why people are homeless. For those that can't afford housing, and the numbers are high, there has to be a housing plan in place. Let's revisit co-op. Let's revisit geared to income. We have to do something. What is working now is not working. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would you like me to repeat the question?
No, that's fine, thank you. First thing that I really think we need to do is undertake a cost-benefit analysis of the existing programs based on data from impacted citizens and businesses and not based on crime stats. We know that crime is not being reported. We know this. So we cannot make decisions based on numbers that are not full and informative. There seems to be a conflict in what we're experiencing every day on the ground and what we're being told by agencies. We need to reflect on that. I just spent a year in outreach and worked with all our community agencies. A lot of good people are doing what they can, and a lot of good people needing stress leave, as there's little or zero mental health supports in place for first responders who are witnessing what we're seeing in our community. They're living it too. What are we gonna do when the outreach and first responders are no longer available? We need to talk about this. One thing I took note of is that the agencies are helping a lot of the same people. The numbers therefore aren't accurate again. We need to stop facilitating growth of programs that rely on out-of-towners to keep operations going. We must do better with setting up prisoners with supports after serving sentences. And we must do better at helping with rehab clients who drop out of treatment and fail to return to their home areas. We need to be there for people in challenge times. And we need to do this differently than anything that we've been doing so far. We have to realize our appeal to addicts. Having a huge entrenched addicted population demands high quality product available in abundance with easy access through a vast network of drug dealers. Can you believe it that Maple Ridge has a dial a drug service that's in our community? Courts are too crowded to prosecute, access to detox and treatment filled with roadblocks. Really, what's the point in doing what we're doing? It's not working. It's broken. They finish treatment and they go back on the streets. Housing and housing supports are not available. For those who cleaned up, they are returned back to the environment that got them unhealthy in the first place. Sending people back to their home communities is not what I heard for an entire year working on the ground in outreach. They don't want to go back to their own communities. They cannot get healthy where they got sick. Our businesses cannot afford the high cost of defending against the addicted population, building fences, installing security gates, and in some cases, hiring security guards.
Thank
We
you.
need to do more.
Thank you very much. Mr. Morton, what is your plan for addressing the increase in homelessness in our community?
Plan's already done, it's implemented, and it's having to evolve as situation in our social safety net in our country and in our province and in our own community is breaking down in pieces. This community social safety initiative was something that my council supported 100%. I went to the Premier of British Columbia and I asked for permission to dare to do this a little bit differently. We didn't agree that doing drugs is healthy, that we wanted to be able to take an intervention approach and be able to support people out of drug use. There are some that do need it, but generally speaking, most people that do drugs, they really don't want to do it. It's their situation, it's their personal journey, things have happened to them. I've had it in my own household, I understand how this works. But that doesn't make it acceptable. This is not normal for us, and it's an incredible cost center, and it's not supportable long term. Our CSSI is dashboarded, proved out, and has now been operating for a year and a half. And we have more treatment referrals. I have 85 treatment referrals out of there, people have successfully gone through treatment, than one of the low barrier housing operators, I won't name them, 3 referrals, that's it. So that is not working. There are 12 people that have died over at the Royal Crescent Modular Housing. That's not okay. They're somebody's child, they're somebody's dad, and we need to do better. So the CSSI intervenes on the streets and takes a compassionate approach and tries to lift people out. The hub is its entrance, its gateway, where Fraser Health is there, nonprofit housing providers are there. We have all the resources there. We've managed to prove our case out. I'm really proud of the work that that's done because it shows that there is a better way and there is a way out when people are ready. People have had some difficult journeys here. We need to understand how that works. But that doesn't mean to say that the rest of the community has to accept consequences from this. People do bad behavior for reasons. So why is that? Is that because that's a dangerous criminal? Well, in our 3-tiered CSSI program, I have the police deal with that. But I have community safety officers here that have hearts. But yes, they also are empowered to do what they need to do in order to defuse the situation, because there's a lot of mental health, there's a lot of people that have addiction troubles, a lot of people that have had very difficult journeys in their lives. As a society, it's our responsibility to pick people up and lift them up when we possibly can and be ready to intervene and then be able to take them on a journey. In municipal government here, we've done what we could. We've done things like recovery housing bylaw so that they could have absence-based housing without having to go through your zoning. We've done everything we possibly can within the housing side. We provide secondary suites roll under review right now. But treatment, well, we have a commitment from the province of British Columbia for $200 million to provide housing for those that can't afford it. And the 2 buildings that have arrived here, unfortunately, are not affordable for people. Seniors can't afford to be there. So we have a plan, it's working. There's a lot more to do.
Thank you very much. Mr. Rumi, what is your plan for addressing the increase in homelessness in our community?
Look, this is a very complex issue that all cities face. Many approaches have been tried, but many have not had much success. We have to look at why. We recognize that there is a serious mental health crisis in this country, and provincial healthcare needs to step up and do more. That also means that the federal government must also step up and commit more money to the provinces to deal with mental health. Each person is different with their own unique needs, and many at the point of not having options to help get them back on their feet. There are those that have been entrenched in a downward spiral for so long, they just don't know any other way. But it's not just the addicted. We have youth that are couch surfing with no place to go. We have seniors that can't afford their rents. We have low-income families that can't afford to feed their families. Each and every one of these folks can become the next homeless. One of the best things we can do to make sure that we have plenty of affordable rental housing stock so that people don't become homeless in the first place. We'll bring together a housing roundtable with developers, community services, housing advocates to inform policy decisions and help design more livable communities. We'll work with federal and provincial governments and community stakeholders to ensure that we have a continuum of affordable housing options, including rental units. The provincial government is bringing in a complex care system, and we need to make sure that we are one of the cities that get onto this program. If we truly want to find compassionate solutions, we must all work together, not just all levels of government, but each and every one of us here today. I wanted to answer your question earlier, but I knew I had this piece here and I have a little bit of time. When we look around, if we were to do a count, and I don't know what the current count is, I'm going to assume it's about 125 to 150 homeless people in a population of almost 100,000, and we're still struggling with this. It's crime. There is petty crime that happens. We have to figure out how can we fix this. Pushing them out is what every city is trying to do. We don't want you here. Go away. Go away. But they're who we are. They could be our mothers, they could be our fathers, our sisters, our brothers. I think everybody in this room likely has had somebody that they knew and cared for that became addicted and became homeless. So compassion is there. We need to have compassion, but we need to find better ways of doing this so that we don't continuously fill the pipeline with more homeless people.
Thank you. Mr. Blackstone, what is your plan for addressing the increase in homelessness in our community?
It's that's a seriously tough issue. I had a buddy of mine in my 20s that was from Montreal. The guy was like an idiot savant, a musician, and he was a heroin junkie for 5 years. He cleaned himself up when he came out, and I had asked him, it's like, what brought you out of it? He said it was the time that he woke up on a sidewalk in Montreal with his face in a pile of dog shit. He said that's when he hit rock bottom and he cleaned himself up. 10 years had passed, and he was still telling me how much he's got a craving of taking that needle and shoving it in his arm. We don't understand the level of this. I don't understand. I don't get it. We need to help people. Now, when it comes to the aspect now of homeless and try to build them some shelters, again, I go to the facts that we have runaway real estate prices. We've got builders that come in and charge X amount of dollars per square feet. They don't care if they're building a home or if they're building a homeless shelter. They're still charging you the same thing. So if we all care, every single one of us in this room and every single one of us in Maple Ridge truly care about these people, why don't we start taking a different approach? Maybe we should start looking at the Amish, the good old barn building aspect. We've got a lot of construction workers that live in Maple Ridge, a lot of plumbers, a lot of electricians, a lot of people that are able bodies. Why don't we have like our local municipality provide the lumber, provide the supplies and all this? And come on people, come and help for a weekend. Let's start building some places. What about the container homes that were made? Those are fantastic. They're extremely cost effective. You can put it anywhere and it all works. It doesn't need to be a suite of a $500,000 condo for you to go inside. It's got to have walls, it's got to keep you warm, it's got to have a stove, it's got to have a refrigerator, and let's start giving these people a sense of having a life, some way to help them. So my question is right back at you, Maple Ridge, when you're asking me sitting up here, what are you going to do about homeless? What are you going to do about it? Are you willing to grab a hammer and go help out for an afternoon? Are you willing to do it for a week? Why should we rely on the government? Guess what? If we keep relying on the government to do this, it's nothing but bureaucracy. We see where we're at nowadays. It's just more and more people get hired, more and more studies get done, and nothing realistically gets done in the end, but around an election time when they show something, hey, look what we did. Why aren't we getting involved? Why are we putting it on the backs of the government? Because you know what? If we keep going this way, our taxes are going to keep going up and up and up, because building affordable housing costs just as much as building $1 million condo.
Thank you very much.
No applause.
Just keep that mic. You're up next. Do you have plans for how to handle the Infinity Art Hotel?
I don't even know what the Infinity Art Hotel is. Somebody describe it to me. What is it?
It's the big eyesore right on Lougheed Highway that's been there for a
that
while.
one. Yeah.
No roof.
Right. Yeah, well, why is it there? What is this? Last I heard was somebody had bought it over and they're gonna redevelop it. Uh-oh, Mike's walking away.
You know what, I admit it, I'm a senior, I'm 62, and I need to go to the bathroom.
Nice. Oh, I'm with you, man. Aging totally sucks.
I was thinking the same
And I was really happy actually coming to the senior center tonight. I'm like, oh my God, everybody's gonna make me feel like a kid again. This is great. So no, I mean that, you know what? I mean, I know nothing about that property, but I mean, if it's there and if we can do something about it and build it as some kind of affordable housing and fix it up real quick, let's do it. Otherwise, let's level it. What would you all like to see with it done? What? You want to see it leveled, or you want to see?
Level and build something useful there. It's full of rats and whatever else. I mean, and then they have a restaurant next door. I wouldn't eat there. I mean, it's an eyesore. Why is it there?
I can imagine what it's like living around there too, if there's so many rats in that place. So, yeah, I mean, for a city to let something like that go derelict that long, that's not good. But this is also the fine line, that's somebody's private property, right? So where does the city step in over private property? So does it go back to like years ago where people complained in Vancouver where you got the multi-million-dollar homes that have got lawns this big in their front yard because somebody's living overseas? Well, it's their private property. If you made the law to let them own it, well, they own it. So maybe the problem is how the entire system is structured. And the more of us that get involved, the better it's going to be. I got a minute left. Anybody want to ask me anything? I'm going to keep doing this. I got 9 seconds. I'm with you 100%. But you know what? The way I look at it, tinfoil hat on my head over here, this is all done on purpose for the federal level, trickling down.
Thank you.
Realize difficult.
Thank you very much.
Talk to me after. Hey, if I don't have a microphone, can I keep talking?
Absolutely not.
Mr. Rumi, do you have plans for how to handle the Infinity Art Hotel site?
So let's take a journey back a few years when the province was going to buy the Quality Inn and turn that into supportive housing. It was a big controversial decision. There were protests, there were petitions, and so on and so forth. I went back to, because I was an MP, I went back to my ministers. I went back to the Minister of Employment Services Canada. And I said, look, this is what's happening. If it goes ahead, can we get funding for the restaurant in there to keep it open? We would get a school to create a curriculum to teach not only not everybody can do it, but we have, like I said before, youth that are couch surfing. Can we get them on EI and go and teach them how to cook, how to be a bar cook? Can we do those sort of things, especially as people transition in part of that supportive housing piece? As they transition, they can actually go and work and learn how to do things. And we had secured that. We had secured that. I was so excited. I got on a plane. I was ready to come to the mayor and say, this is what I've got going on here. Plane landed, the whole thing blew up, it was gone, off the table. And I was disappointed with that. because there's a lot you could have done there. With that restaurant, you could have fed seniors 1 or 2 days a week as part of the training process. So we have to think outside the box when it comes to these sorts of situations. Currently, we don't have, I don't know what background information is there, but we don't have all the variables. We don't really know what's going on, who owns it, is there an insurance claim on it? So we have to figure out what those pieces are. Is the hotel salvageable? Can we do some minor repairs and get it up and running? Or do we have to raise it all down? Can the city or the province or both actually buy the land? Buy that and do something with it. Build seniors housing or build housing for youth. There's a great opportunity here to be able to do that and still keep the restaurant in place. But there's a lot of things we don't know, and we don't have the answers. So we talk to the community, we talk to the experts, we talk to the housing experts that can come in and say, this is the space, here's what we can do with it. So we got to think outside the box. And I think there's a real opportunity with that hotel. Again, we don't really know what those variables are. So that's what I would do. I would start to look at that opportunity and say, what can we do that's going to benefit our youth? What can we do that's going to benefit our seniors? Seniors don't need a large place to live. They need 1 bedroom, they need a place that they can cook, and a place that they can go to the bathroom, and that's perfect for where it is. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Morton, do you have any plans on how to handle the Infinity Art Hotel site?
The idea of turning the Art Infinity Hotel, or back then the Quality Inn, into a low-barrier hotel was preposterous. The problem still exists. It's been identified. There are people that are struggling with mental health and addictions, and you would put them right next to a major highway, you know. I've met Mr. Lau, who's the owner of that hotel. I've spent quite a few hours with him. He's a nice Korean gentleman. He didn't know about our low-heat corridor plan, because that's one of the things that I do is I go and meet with people. And I talked to him about the low-heat corridor plan, and he intends on building a tower on that location now. But meantime, he's got a hotel there that's got some legal challenges, and he's got some other challenges that I actually can't talk to you about because they're in close counsel, but they're confidential. It would be fair to talk about them. But to say that we didn't encourage him to rebuild that hotel to a proper safety standard or demolish it, that was the recommendation. It's funny that as part of my work, when I did a security assessment on his location, I arranged for that because that's one of the services that we do as part of the CSSI, Community Safety Officer Program, is we had his whole building assessed because there were things going on at that hotel that shouldn't have been. There were rooms inside that hotel that were being used to deal drugs out of, and a prolific amount of them, and he didn't know it. And I brought that to his attention, and he reviewed the CCTV footage, and he found out that this was not good for his business. And I encouraged him, because families need places to stay, where we can come and enjoy recreation opportunities and bring our kids to, but that hotel was not attracting anybody. It was a problem. It was used for, it contained government subsidies for people to stay there. During COVID, it had actual government funding going in there under the auspices of COVID distancing protocol. I can't remember exactly what it was, but you basically going into isolation. And there were other activities taking place in there. So Mr. Lau is very blithely aware of that. He is intent on building a spectacular hotel on that site as part of our low-heat corridor plan. And because I went there and saw him and I told him about it, and I'm super excited about what he wants to do. He wants to put in an Indigenous art gallery, 3 different forms. It's going to be pretty impressive. But it's going to take him a little while to get there. Yeah, there was a language barrier, but I arranged for an interpreter, and we got along really well. But Mr. Lau comes from a country where there are slightly different rules here. In Canada, we have safety regulations on buildings, and they must be built to compliance. They must also be repaired to compliance as well. So that's where I need to stop on that part. But things are alive and well and in hand, and we're going to have an amazing building there in time.
Thank you very much. Ms. Bell, should I repeat the question?
No, that's fine. And Mike just told me he washed his hands. So that's good. We appreciate that.
I'm not that senior.
Okay, so this conversation is a really good example of why we need bylaws and health and safety and fire regulations, and why they're so critical to our society. Sometimes it seems like it can be a nuisance to some regulations, but this is a good example of it for sure. The way that I would handle this is meet with the hotel owner first and foremost, and discuss his updated plans. But really, from a city perspective, it can be handled much in the same way, pardon the term, but there's a reference called a slumlord. And you might remember Jack Atwell's property on 224th in our downtown. And I believe if the property owner isn't motivated to do something in our community with what we've been seeing for so many years, and he knows that there's activity taking place, especially in the back portion of the hotel. There's still quite a bit of activity taking place. When you're a property owner, you can take steps in order to ensure that that's being dealt with on an ongoing basis if you'd like to. I really believe that. So I really believe the owner needs to be brought to larger conversations and see what we can do to motivate him to move forward. Yes, the roof is exposed and there's elements that were caught up in a legal battle, and restoration was needed desperately. There was one sub-trade in particular. That's why it didn't get handled. There's some legalities, lawsuits involved there. So see what's holding that up, and see if we can play an active role in taking care of this in our community. The one thing that is very concerning to me for a long time with that property, and what the best use of that property would be going into the future, is right adjacent to it. We have really incredible doctors that own a property there, and what they want to do and what they've been trying to do for years with the municipality is build a state-of-the-art wraparound medical care facility all in one spot instead of driving to all the different specialists. And so I think that it's very important that this conversation is a priority. I can see why it was a question tonight, and I look forward to advocating to resolve this issue. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Bernard, do you have any plans for how to handle the Infinity Art Hotel?
Well, it has definitely been a learning experience. Some of the ideas I had, I heard through other candidates, but just offhand, I thought absentee landlords, maybe there can be more restriction on those and hold them accountable for what they're letting us live with. And maybe if it could be resolved, maybe I was thinking give it to Cythera House for women facing domestic challenges. But other than that, I have nothing else to say.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I want to thank you all for being here. We're going to be moving on to the 4-minute closing statements, but I would like to say we will be finishing this meeting after the 4-minute closing statements, but if they make themselves available, the candidates will be outside for any further questions you may have of them. Again, thank you for your participation in this election process, for it affects everyone, and I'm glad to see so many people coming out here tonight. Thank you very much. So, Mr. Rumi, you're the reverse alphabetically guy to start. 4-minute closing statement.
Switched it all around. I was expecting to go a different route. That's okay, I'm pretty adaptable. It's one of my core strengths. Thank you to all the volunteers, organizers, and the moderator for this event tonight. And a big thank you to all those that have stepped up and put your names out there as candidates. We know it's certainly not an easy thing to open yourself up for everyone to see and comment on. I was at an event last night organized by the residents of the Alouette Valley. They have some real concerns about catastrophic flooding and what to do in case of emergency evacuation, especially after the disastrous flooding we witnessed last year, not that far away from us in the Fraser Valley. Those residents can see that there are solutions that we can be doing to mitigate some of these risks. Sadly, not everybody was there, which is disappointing. As candidates, this is our interview. This is where we go to interview for our job. And it's unfortunate that something as serious as that didn't attract everybody to come. Folks, it's time to get serious. Like most cities across this country, we're facing some pretty tough challenges. Many people I talk to tell me they feel their vote does not matter. I'm here to tell you that it does. Traditionally, provincial and federal elections will see 55 to 65% voter turnout. In 2018, the eligible voter turnout for Maple Ridge was 33.5%. Local government has the most direct impact on our day-to-day lives, yet traditionally receives the least amount of voter turnout. Your voice matters. You can make a difference. Research the candidates. What do they stand for? Who do they represent? Can you trust them to stand up for you and work with other levels of government to get what our city needs? Why would any new business want to come to our city if all they hear is negative stuff? It's not a good look for our city. Our mayor and council need to be our biggest cheerleaders to attract business to want to come here and open their doors. Our mayor and council need to work hand in hand with the Chamber of Commerce and the BIA to be there as ambassadors for our business community. In fact, I believe that there is a worthwhile opportunity to try to find some funding to help support our Chamber of Commerce. If they succeed, we all succeed. I'd rather have a council that works well together to bring the change that we so desperately need in Maple Ridge. That is why I'm proud to be working with the Better Maple Ridge team. Each one of us is committed to debating at the council table in public, not behind closed doors, no secret deals, and not just between our team. Everybody has a voice at the table and deserves to have. They represent you. Everybody's elected, and they all have the opportunity to represent you. My vision is to have a mayor and council that you can all be proud of. Democracy works when everyone gets involved. When the polls open, I'm asking for your support. Vote for me, vote for the Better Maple Ridge team, and help us build a city we can all be proud of. Thank you, and thank you for coming out.
Thank you very much. No, reverse. Mr. Morton's next. Thank you.
Well, in 2018, we were looking for change because there was no plan. And when we got in, we immediately put in a plan. In fact, we put in 14 of them. We took down a camp. We put together a jobs plan. We put together a program that would lead us to a safe, clean city. We've made incredibly responsible land use decisions. 80% of our construction and residential now is high density. We provided stable government. We're very aware that there are massive needs in our city. Infrastructure, recreation, emergency plans, transit. Well, we got all those things in hand. Transit investments are here. They're coming. Within 10 years, it's done. Post-secondary, it's coming. It's done. Jobs plan, it's coming, it's done. That will double our tax base. You want to build a city for 2050? You got to get serious about it. I'll agree with that. Yes, we've managed some serious weather events. We've managed a pandemic. The city didn't stop operating just because of that. We just had to work through it. We switched to technology. We never missed a meeting. We made incredible investments inside our city. We never put anybody out to the street, didn't have to work. We figured out when the recreation center closed how we were going to repurpose our staff to other purposes, cleaning parks. We didn't want to leave anybody behind. We heard about countless tales of people that couldn't even access CERB benefits, particularly around business, because the balance sheets weren't affected now, it was coming in future time. So 440,000 people are having to deal with CERB collections and business collections, and it's all money from the federal government that's now all got to go back. It didn't work. There are so many things in policy that are broken that aren't working, and that's what we do. We have an advocacy plan because we're working for you on the ground. We hear what the problems are, and we take them higher up. And that requires, yes, a lot of cooperation and hard discussions to make sure that we're getting our people in our city looked after. Most importantly, though, is that we have a clean, safe, welcoming city that will lift everybody up, leave nobody behind, and ensure that we're doing the right things for the right reasons. Not for politics, but the fact that we care about the people that are here, whether you have a business, whether you have a home, whether you're struggling with a mortgage. There are a lot of people that are having a lot of difficulties in our society today. That's why we took on the responsibility. We took on the responsibility of building a social safety net in the city that would actually work, where everybody is working together. There's lots of wonderful people out there, but the framework needed to have a leadership position taken, and we did in the city. And that proved to be working. And what that tells you is that when we lead and we take responsibility, we can get to outcomes. And that's what's missing in this city, is a focus on outcomes for people. Ambulance calls, all the rest of those things. Our e-com service is overloaded. My city's picking up half of the overdose calls right now, not getting paid for it. Now, what does that tell you? It just tells you that there are structures that need to be fixed. Lots of amazing people in our part of the world. Lots of them, lots of innovators. You just need to take responsibility and focus on outcomes for people. We're going to build you a great city. In 2050, it's going to be quite something. We're in it for the long game, not the short game. My friends at Maple Ridge First there, Dewick, Metis, and Svensson, they supported me through this because we respect the law and because we don't play politics. We're in this for the long haul. We're going to build you a city to be proud of, and we're not screwing around, excuse my French here, because I'm 62 and I don't have enough time. We're going to do this quickly, responsibly, in the best ways possible. And yes, we've got a plan for all that, and thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Blackstone, if you could pass the mic down, please. Thank you. 4-minute closing statement. Thank you very much.
Excuse my French, my name is French. Well, you heard everything I had to say earlier, so obviously one of my first and primary points is to ensure that our food is no longer a global weave, that we'll never have a shortage again. I want to do incentive to our local growers and farmers, and hopefully that will potentially start some jobs that way. Bring back the butchers, another one I'm pushing for. Many of you remember when you were younger, you go into any grocery store and you didn't have prepackaged meat, you had a butcher that was there. You wanted 500 grams of ground beef, they grabbed a chunk, put it on a scale, wrapped it in a brown paper bag, wrote the price and gave it to you. Why am I saying that? Because you know what, there's all these climate change activists out there that are wanting to stop our ground beef, but I would rather stop the styrofoam, the cellophane, and the pad that comes in for all of our meat. So right away there, we can start doing our part that way. So to anybody that wants to see reducing our CO2s, that's gonna be a huge way to do it. In the early 90s, being an audiovisual technician, I was hired to record a conference of the GVRD engineers talking, and if any of you remember in the 90s, there was a thing called the green wave. If you drove the speed limit, the lights went green. You know what those engineers said and what the GVRD wanted to do? They wanted to get rid of the green wave, and lo and behold, within days it was gone. I remember the one on Como Lake, that was a phenomenal one. You could go the whole length of Como Lake and you don't stop. So I'd want to bring back the green wave. Why? Well, you know what? If you're worried about CO2 emissions in your vehicle, you're worried about your commute time at the same time, if we program the lights going that way, traffic is moving. When do cars run more efficient? Well, when they're actually working, not stop and go, okay? Part of the GVRD meeting was to add additional traffic lights at the same time to create congestion, to force people to take mass transit. Didn't fall back on my head. I heard this with my own ears in 1993 when I was videotaping this conference, okay? This is the UN agenda. This is global. This is now World Economic Forum. It's trickling down onto a municipal level. This is an extremely important election in Maple Ridge. I need you to think outside the box, okay? Don't forget the questions you're asking. Put them aside, but start looking at the grand scale of the entire thing, okay? This level of government is for we, the people, independent. We are to have no party affiliations and not to be swayed in any way, shape, or form, okay? So be careful how you vote this year, because if you want to keep Maple Ridge, and not the influence of political parties coming from Ottawa, this is the time to do it. Because once that Pandora's box open, good luck closing it, okay? It's a beautiful municipality. I love Maple Ridge. I don't like the path that it's going. I don't want it to turn into another carbon copy municipality. I keep blaring this one out there. They don't look good, and basically everything has just favored developers. And part of that conference also was to make the streets as narrow as possible with no driveways to ensure that people can't have a car and own it on the street, to force people to take mass transit. Is that what you want for your children, or do you want your children to have freedom?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
If you could pass the mic down, please. Darlene, you're up. Four-minute closing statement. It's you.
Okay. So, yes, now, I feel as an individual searching for and trying to maintain independence, so much has been taken away from us, by all levels of government. We have lost our healthcare system, our affordable housing, and the list can go on and on. And I feel they're the ones defining our cities. I'm from Vancouver. I don't know about you, but I can't get into Vancouver, Burnaby, Port Coquitlam, and so on and so forth. I also feel a vote for those now who are running or who wanting to be re-elected as a vote for the same thing. That's like higher taxes. Not only higher taxes, we were taxed during a health crisis, COVID. They raised our taxes. They didn't give a damn. And you know, you're trying to make another payment. Okay. More unaffordability. Food prices. Oh, what I bought for myself and my mom is not costing $10 or $20 more. It's costing over $100 and $150 more, and that's without meat. Gas. Oh my gosh. This happened before, and they were dancing in Saudi Arabia, and I bet they're disco jocking or whatever. They're enjoying it, but I'm not. My family's not. Our kids are not. People who have to go to work to maintain a household, they can't do it. And I came back to Maple Ridge because I had to. Coming back to British Columbia, I was proud. Do you know what British Columbia means now? Bring cash. It's when does it stop? Rapid development. It's like, oh, these wonderful cities. We have a metropolitan city already. Not full with houses, but full with towers. I don't want towers. I don't want another Burnaby, Vancouver, and Lougheed Mall. I'm sorry, I don't. There's no grass. There's no place for the kids to play. I'm sorry, I don't. You know, and the other thing too is once land is gone, it's gone. We can't reprint it like money. You know, that a lot of our governments are doing that now. Printing money. So, it's your choice. When I am mayor, I want to work for my changes. But together, we can work to make changes. So, on October 15th, remember my name, Darlene Bernard. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Ms. Bell, closing statement.
Okay, first of all, I just want to once again say thank you for hosting this tonight. I'm very grateful to be here. It's wonderful when community puts on these all-candidate meetings. Something I've been spreading the word of is during this time, it's up to community to host these meetings, to give us the opportunity to share with you what we see for communities so that everyone can make their best decision when it comes to voting. I just have a couple comments. It was commented that there was no plan when this council took over, but I don't know what happened between 2018 last council and then the 2018 council that took over, because there was a plan in place. Councils are a succession of the previous councils, and there was what was called a matrix, which had a work plan on it, and that seemed to disappear this term. On a more serious note, this is a very important election for all of us in Maple Ridge. I feel we're at an integral conjuncture of our community, and that I don't know that we'll be able to turn our municipality around if we have another 4 years of status quo and continuing to do things the same way that we have always done them. We need to desperately do things differently. Getting ahead of the line for transit conversations, solving complex issues on our streets, intervening in traffic issues that are only going to get worse. We need to reinvigorate the downtown core. We need to badly be providing amenities for our youth and young people so that they have activity to do and partake in, and don't become those that we see on the street every day. Intervention at a young age is the key. We're told this in education continually. In addressing these problems, we must make sure that we are using best practices to protect the environment and treasures of nature that surround us. It's the most valued thing in our community by citizens. They say this without question, the most. We need to have development that is sensible and sustainable and provides maximum livability for all of us, every citizen of our community. I want to assure each and every one of you that I'm fully acquainted with the challenges that are facing our community, and I look forward to leading and bringing us together to have these conversations and to create solutions together as a council and with our community agency partners and with our neighborhoods and with our sports groups and community, and bring us all together for public engagement like this town's never seen before. I just want to address one more conversation. It was brought up that not everybody was at the Alouette River event the other day, and I debated to myself sitting here if I would share this or not. But I feel, because it was called out, that it's important to acknowledge that I wasn't there the other evening. One of my dearest friends has passed, and that's probably why you don't see me in my most chipper self that you might know me as. I was with her in her time of transition using medically assisted death, and that was really intense for me. You can't predict the timing of these things. It needed to happen. She was my biggest cheerleader, and I'm sorry, Mr. Rumi, that I was not there. Thank you.
I'm so sorry to do this to you. But thank you very much. I would like to thank all the candidates for coming out here tonight. Thank you very much for putting your name forward, because I know how it's a brave thing to do that. It's a lot of public feedback. And on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce serving Pitt Meadows and Maple Ridge, I want to thank all of you for coming out. I know I've done that a few times, but in this day and age, it's very important that we get in touch with our local politics first and try to influence bigger politics. So thank you very much for coming out. We are closing.
Yes, and I was hoping that the most critical issue of our time, which is climate change, was going to be addressed tonight, and have our candidates be telling us what Maple Ridge is going to do in that regard.
Well, thank you very much. But if you have any questions, if the candidates remain to stay outside, you can ask them outside.
But I'm sure most of the audience would want to hear that if they are willing and if you are willing.
Are you people willing to do this? One more question about climate change. I need a full on board here. Like, Mike, no? Mike has to go, so if they're not all on board, I apologize, but if you can track them down outside, but thank you very much.
He's going to wait, but if he has to go, the other people can answer the question.
Okay, are you all right with this, Mike? Okay, but are you okay to leave and let them stay? Oh, I see, yeah, we're changing the rules. I don't think we should do this. Sorry, I apologize, but he is correct.
I am one that respects the law and the rules. If the rules were disclosed out front, I would have been prepared for...
All candidates have, all candidates have contracts.
You had said 3 hours, and now you're saying 2 hours, and you already changed the rules. So here's a valid question, and if you want to go, make an adaptation.
Okay, so we have the BIA here. The rules were no questions from the floor.
The rules were 3 hours earlier.
That was Mr. Blackstone. He asked for that personally. I have not asked for any questions from the floor. So if...
And we do still are allowing time for meet and greet if the candidates are staying there. There are people that have wanted to hand out information, including yourself, sir, and that is allowing time for you to be outside and do that.
And you can contact all the candidates online. They all have their information online. If you have any questions, and it's an important question, I do agree with you.
Or by phone.
By phone, yeah. So thank you very much for all coming out tonight. Thank you.